Yeah. So hello everyone. In this particular section, we are going to discuss about the Google recruitment process as well as some interview questions, that is, coding questions. So first, let us solve some two coding questions. After that, I'll show you the recruitment which is opened by Google in the recent days. So this is the first question. Here, given an array of n integers, check whether it contains a triplet that sums up to 0. And we have the sample test cases as well. So triplet in the sense, from the array we should take some 3 elements. That 3 elements sum should be 0. And I need to print the count of the triplet. So say for example, here the first test case, 5 is the total number of array elements. 0, -1, 2, -3 and 1 are the elements. So here you can check for all the combinations, all the possible combination, where if I take the element 0, -1 and 1, the sum is 0 because -1 and 1 will get cancelled and the remaining element is 0, hence the sum is 0. So here 0, -1 and 1 forms a triplet with the sum equal to 0. This is the first triplet. And if we take any other cases, say for example, let me take -1, 0, 2. It is not 0. -1, 2, -3. It is not 0. 2, -3, 1. 1, -3, -1. Like if you take all the possible combination, if you check all the possible combination, only one triplet is forming the sum 0. That is 0, -1 and 1. Hence my output is 1. That is the count of triplet is 1. Now we can see the second test case. Here the number of elements in the array is 3 and the elements are 1, 2 and 3. So here no triplet with 0 sum exists, right? See, if we find any 3 combinations, see, only 3 elements is there. So anyhow we need to take 1 plus 2 plus 3 only. We are getting the sum as 6 and not as 0. So hence my output is 0 because no triplet with 0 sum exists. So now this is the question, right? First we need to try to come up with the logic, then we can do the code. So here basically, first I'll get the input array, size of the array as well as elements from the user. That is fine. After that, the first process is I need to sort the array. So first I'll be sorting the array, that too in ascending order. Yeah, so first I'll take the array and I'll sort it in ascending order. So here if I'm sorting it in ascending order, how it will be? -3, then -1, then 0, then 1 and 2. So this is the ascending order sorting of these elements, right? So after doing the sorting operation, so this operation can be done with a sort of function. Once this is done, we can compare the function, like we can use a comparison function that compares the absolute value of elements using a lambda function. So here I can take a function which initializes a count variable in order to keep the track of the number of triplets with 0 sum. So let me initialize a variable count as 0, and after that whenever I am getting a triplet, I can keep on incrementing the value of count so that finally I can return the count. So the count of triplet that sums up to 0 will get printed, right? So here what I am going to do is, I'll use a nested loop to iterate through all the possible combinations of 3 elements in the array by using 3 pointers I can take. So one as I, a pointer, then a pointer named left, then a pointer named right. So 3 pointers I'll take in order to find all the possible combinations of the 3 elements in the array. Now we are going to use the nested loop, right? So outer loop iterates from the first element to third to last element, right? Whereas the inner loop will be having 2 pointers. This left pointer will start from the current element, like element after the current element, whereas the right pointer point towards the last element. And inside the inner loop, what I can do is I can find the sum of the current triplet. So I can calculate whether here my array is named ARR, right? So I can check whether ARR of I plus ARR of left plus ARR of right. So this is the sum of the current triplet. So I'll run the I loop from 0 till the end of the array, and I'll start the left pointer from the element after the current element, and I'll start the right pointer from the last element. See why? Because 3 elements I should take at a time, right? It is triplets. So that is the reason I am running these 3 pointers in these scenario. And here when I am checking if this particular sum, okay, if this particular sum is 0, then what I can tell, this contains a triplet that sums up to 0. So after that, the left pointer, this can be moved towards the right, because we need to check for furthermore triplets is there or not, right? So if the sum is less than 0, the left pointer is moved to the, see, 3 conditions we need to do. One is, what if my sum is equal to 0? So if my sum is equal to 0, that means a triplet with 0 sum has been found, right? So what I can do is, I'll just increment the value of count. That is just we need, right? What if my sum is less than 0? So if my sum is less than 0, I will move the left pointer is moved to the right. See, what is the purpose? In order to consider a larger value, I am doing this because I have already sorted the array. So the array elements is in ascending order. That is the reason I am moving the left pointer to the right in order to get a larger value, since my sum is less than 0. So only if I add the larger value, again there is a possibility of getting sum as 0, right? Because now it is less than 0. Now what if my sum is greater than 0, if it is any other value? So if it is greater than 0, I will move the right pointer to the left. So what is the purpose? In order to get any smaller value, right? So this is the 3 conditions we will do. And the inner loop, so when the inner loop will stop executing, so inner loop will get stop executing when the left and right pointer is meeting. So once this left and right pointer is meeting, the inner loop will stop the execution, and the outer loop will continue until the third to last element. See why? Because inner loop needs at least 2 elements after the current element to form a triplet, right? Because 3 elements in total I need to take. So this inner loop need at least 2 elements after the current element. That is the reason the outer loop continues until third to last element. Finally, what I can do? I can return the count of the triplets with 0 sum. So where it will be printing as the output. That is, a value will get printed. So this is how I'll do the process. So I'll repeat the logic again. So first I'll do is, I'll get the input from the user. After getting the input from the user, let me initialize a variable count as 0. In order to count, or in order to keep a track of the number of triplets with 0 sum. Now I'll going to use a nested loop to iterate through all the possible combinations of the 3 elements in the array using 3 pointers. One is -1, then other one is left and right. Now the outer loop iterates from the first element to the third to the last element, whereas the inner loop will be using 2 pointers. One is the left one, which is starting from the element after the current element, and the right one, which is starting from the last element. And inside the inner loop, I'll find the sum of all the 3 pointers, that is array of I plus array of left plus array of right. Once I find the sum, I need to check 3 conditions, whether the sum is equal to 0, or the sum is lesser than 0, or the sum is greater than 0. So if my sum is equal to 0, I'll just keep on incrementing the count. If my sum is less than 0, I'll move the left to the right in order to get the larger value. Similarly, if it is greater than 0, right pointer is moved towards the left in order to get the smaller value. So until this left and right is meeting, which loop will run? Inner loop will run. Inside the inner loop only we are finding the sum, right? Now the inner loop continues until the left and right pointers meet, and the outer loop continues until the third to last element. Why? Because the inner loop needs at least 2 elements after the current element to form a triplet, because totally 3 elements is needed, right? Finally, the function will be returning the count of triplets with zero sum. So inside the main function, the user input, I will be getting the value of n, as well as I will take all the elements of the array using cin function. Then I can make use of a function where that return value of the function should be count of the triplets. Finally, I can print the count because I need the count only. So this is the logic. Now let us move to the coding part. So now let me start from the beginning. So first I need to include the header file, hash include IO string. Now I am going to perform the sort function, right? So in order to use the sort function, let me include the header file, hash include algorithm. Now using namespace std in order to make use of the cin, cout functions. Now let us start with the main function. So inside the main function, let me get the input values. So first the value n, which represents the size of an array, cin n. Now I am declaring an array, int array of n. I have declared an array, and here I am going to run the loop for int I is equal to 0, I less than n, and I plus plus. So inside this, using the cin function, I am going to get the value of each element inside the array. Now let me take a variable in order to store the count which is returned by the function, right, which is going to return by the function. So let me take a variable result. So that is an integer variable. Why? Because it is returning the count, right? So I have taken as an integer variable, and count, the function name, let me give triples with zero sum. Here I am passing two parameters. One is my entire array and the next one is the size of array. So count triples with zero sum is the function name. So after that, here we can print the result and return 0. So this is all about the main function. So what I did in the main function, inside the main function, I am going to get the value of n from the user, that is the size of the array. Then I am getting the array elements from the user after declaring the array. After getting the array elements, I am going to call the function. So in the function I am passing two parameters. One is the array, other one is the size of an array. And I am going to store the value, the resultant value in a variable result, which is an integer variable. And finally I will be printing the result. So from the function, the count of triplets with zero sum will be returned to the variable result. While I am printing the variable result, the value will get printed. Now here I need to define the function. So let me define the function. So I just want to give the same name. Yeah. So int count triples with zero sum. Here also the same thing. Two parameters, right? So again I need to initialize it because here the array and n, and here the array and n is different. So I have initialized it. Yeah. Now here first let me sort the array, right? So in order to sort the array, I can make use of the sort function, whereas the array is array name, then array plus n, the last name. Then here also, see, in order to get the absolute values, because we have negative values as well, right? So what I can do is, see, while sorting in the ascending order, we should sort based on the absolute value of its elements. So we can use a sort function in order, like using the lambda function in order to sort the value based on the absolute values in the ascending order. So for that purpose, here what I am doing is, let me take two other values, int A and int B. Now here I will be returning absolute value because negative values is also there, right? So absolute value of A, if it is lesser than absolute value of B. Now I can close this. Yeah. So let me explain the function again. So I am using the sort function array plus n and int A comma int B. So inside this I am returning absolute value of A if it is lesser than absolute value of B. So each element will be taken. Here I am sorting the array which is based on the absolute values in the ascending order. Now here I can close this function. Now I have sorted the array based on the absolute values in ascending order. Now let me take a variable count and I'll initialize it as 0 because a variable to keep the track of the count of the triplets. Now I am going to use a loop. So here for I'll run the loop from I is equal to 0, I less than n minus 2 because I am going to take the triplet, right? So int I is equal to 0. Let me initialize the variable as well. I is equal to 0, I less than n minus 2 and I plus plus. Now inside this function, let me take the two pointers. One is the left one and other one is the right one. So first one, that is the left pointer, is the pointer to the element after the current element. So current element is I, the left pointer is the pointer which is after the current element. So this should be I plus 1. So this is the pointer to the element after the current element. Now let me take the right pointer. So that is the last element, right? So I should take n minus 1, whereas n represents the size of an array. Since the index position starts with 0, n minus 1 represents the last element. So this is the pointer to the last element. Now until this left and right pointer meet, I'll repeat the process, right? So let me use the inner for loop condition as while left less than right. So until the left is less than right, I'll find the sum. So let me take a variable sum. So int sum is equal to array of I plus array of left plus array of right. So all the three elements I have taken and I am finding the sum. So once I found out the sum, I am supposed to check whether the sum is equal to 0 or not. So if my sum is equal to 0, a triplet is found, right? So since a triplet is found, the process is simple. I need to increment the count plus plus. So after that, move the left pointer to the right to find more triplets. So I am supposed to increment the left pointer and I am supposed to decrement the right pointer because the left value is lesser than the right value, right? So move the left pointer to the right to find more triplets. Similarly, move the right pointer to the left to find more triplets. So this is the three steps which I will do if my sum is equal to 0. Now what if the condition is not satisfied? So I'll go to the else part, right? So in the else part, I'll check whether my sum is lesser than 0, right? So if my sum is lesser than 0, the same way, if the sum is negative, I need to move the left pointer to the right. So I am supposed to increment the left pointer alone, right? And if this is not the case, in the else part, what does it mean? My sum is greater than 0. So if the sum is positive, I am supposed to move the right pointer to the left side. That is, I need to decrement the right pointer, right? Now, here I am closing the else condition. So where here I can close a while loop, then I can close a for loop. So once I am coming out of the for loop, I am going to return the count value. So here I can close a function as well. Now let me explain the code again. See, inside the main function, I am getting the size of an array. After getting the size of an array and declaring an array, getting the array elements, then I am using a variable result, whereas I am calling the function. Finally, I will print it. Now inside the function, first I need to sort the array based on absolute values in ascending order. So sort of array plus n, then int a comma b. So here I will be returning whether abs of a is lesser than abs of b. So here I have sorted the array based on the absolute values in the ascending order. Then I will take the count variable to keep track of the count of the triplets. I am running the loop, outer loop from 0 less than n minus 2. I will be taking 2 pointers. First one is a pointer to the element after the current element, that is the left one, and pointer to the last element is the right one, that is n minus 1. Now until the left and right pointer meets, I will repeat the process where I will be finding the sum. So in sum is equal to array of I plus array of left plus array of right. So once I got the sum, I'll check the three conditions, whether the sum is equal to 0 or lesser than 0 or greater than 0. If sum is equal to 0, I'll increment the count, left incremented, right decremented. And if the sum is lesser than 0, left got incremented alone. If not, right got decremented alone. Finally, I'll return the count. So this count will get stored in the variable result res, and while printing res, I'll get the input. Now let us run the code here. Okay, here we have forgot a semicolon in the 21st line. Now I have given that. Yes. Now the code is passed. Now let us try giving by some inputs. So we have the input 5 and the elements are 0, minus 1, 2, minus 3 and 1. 0, minus 1, 2, minus 3 and 1. Oh, sorry. 5, 0, minus 1, 2, minus 3 and 1. Yes, we got the input as 1, and we'll give the second test case is also the 3 elements 1, 2 and 3. Yes, we have no triplets, hence my output is 0. So this is how I'll find the triplets with sum 0 inside the array. I should print the count. Now in this link we can see the Google recruitment process. So many openings are there for 2023. So here we can see all the Google careers. So even if your freshers are experienced, so everything is posted here. Let me share this link in the description box. So you can go through all these vacancies, and whichever you are you are thinking if you are fit for, you can apply for that. So many programs are there, both internship as well as for full-timer offers. So you can go through all these posts and check and which one you are eligible and which one you are fit for, you can apply for that. That's it. Thank you.